In March 2023, a group of geneticists from the University of Zurich published a research paper titled Non-Coding DNA: Structures in Primate Evolution. At first glance, the document seemed like just another academic publication, but hidden deep in the appendix was a sentence that sparked quiet panic behind closed doors. We have identified a repeating 13 base pair sequence in human non-coding DNA that does not match any known life on Earth. Within days, the paper was taken offline. Journals retracted it without public explanation. The authors were unreachable. And then, just 1 week later, the lab's internal servers were seized under the authority of a NATO cybersecurity task force. Why would a military alliance be interested in non-coding DNA? Unless it wasn't just DNA. This isn't the first time this strange sequence has shown up. In 1977, NASA's Voyager 1 probe recorded an anomalous signal shortly after passing Saturn. Officially, the signal was dismissed as random noise. But decades later, in 2004, a batch of declassified NSA documents revealed something different. The documents described a 13-base repeating pattern extracted from the Voyager signal. And that sequence? It matched exactly with what was found in Zurich. The same pattern, 46 years apart, two different sources, one in deep space, one inside us. In late 2023, an anonymous user going by the handle EC Gridlock posted a set of leaked internal memos on a deep web forum. The memos, marked confidential, originated from the European Biodefense Initiative. They claimed that the same genetic anomaly was discovered in a small percentage of people who reported recurring alien abductions, missing time, and unexplained medical scars. But that wasn't all. Archaeologists in Peru had recently unearthed ancient mummified remains dated over 1,000 years old with traces of the same 13 base pair structure. These remains were humanoid in shape, but with elongated skulls, oversized eye sockets, and a bone structure never seen in any known human species. They were not fully human, and yet their DNA partially matched ours. One of the memos asked a chilling question. If the 13-base code is not Earth origin, and appears in both modern abductees and ancient remains, then what is its true origin? Another memo gave a short, terrifying answer. Seeding, hybridization, control. Is it possible that humanity's DNA was modified in the distant past? That our evolution was guided or worse, engineered? And if so, by whom? The mainstream scientific community never acknowledged the Zurich discovery. Officially, the university cited a data corruption incident and claimed no such findings ever existed. But copies of the original research paper had already spread. Mirror uploads appeared on private forums, and independent biologists began digging. One such researcher was Dr. Alina Novak, a Polish-American geneticist who worked briefly with the Human Genome Project. In a now-deleted video uploaded to a fringe biology channel, she reviewed the 13 base pair anomaly. Her conclusion was blunt. This sequence does not follow Earth's biological logic. Its structure implies intentional design. It's not evolution, it's insertion. Within 48 hours of that upload, Dr. Novak's lab was shut down by regulatory health inspectors. She hasn't been seen since. But the story doesn't end there. Across the globe, scattered in unconnected reports, were strange medical cases that had been quietly piling up for decades. Infants born with unusual neural pathways, adults who survived otherwise fatal injuries, individuals with inexplicable resistance to diseases. And in nearly every case where genome sequencing was performed, researchers found anomalies in non-coding DNA. Most commonly, sequences that resembled the 13-base hybrid code. These individuals were always told it was just a random mutation. But now that explanation feels suspiciously convenient. Then in early 2024, something even stranger happened. A private satellite owned by a Scandinavian research group captured a brief electromagnetic burst from the Atacama Desert in Chile. At the exact same coordinates, archaeologists had been excavating a massive underground structure previously thought to be a natural cave system. What they found inside has never been publicly disclosed, but two researchers quit the project immediately. One of them, under the pseudonym K, he posted a 4-paragraph confession on an encrypted message board. It read, "They found something beneath the chamber. Not bones, Not machines. Something alive. Or something that was alive. Its skin wasn't organic. Not like ours. It was black, smooth, and humming. Not audibly. Vibrating. As if it still heard something we couldn't. When we touched it, the smartwatches we wore all died instantly. Just blank screens. We weren't supposed to open the second vault. But someone did. And now we're being watched. Less than an hour after that message was posted, the entire server hosting it was taken offline, permanently. The recovered DNA samples from that site never made it to any known lab. At least not officially. But a month later, 2 people involved in the project died under mysterious circumstances, both in separate car crashes, in different countries on the same day. Nothing was reported in mainstream media. So what exactly was found in the desert? Was it the source of the hybrid code, or something that had been waiting for its discovery? In the following months, whispers began circulating among independent journalists and ex-military insiders. The Atacama site had become restricted airspace. Locals spoke of sudden troop movements, unmarked helicopters and lights in the sky silent, triangular crafts that hovered for minutes before vanishing at impossible speeds. No official statement was ever released, but leaked flight path data from civilian aviation apps showed multiple no-fly zones established over the area. Updated weekly, that kind of clearance isn't standard for archaeological digs. Meanwhile, reports of individuals experiencing genetic shock began to rise. Cases where patients exhibited rapid changes in physical or neurological function. Without any clear trigger, some developed heightened senses. Others spoke in languages they had never learned, and a few began drawing complex geometric symbols obsessively. One woman, a librarian from Porto, began drawing spiral glyphs across her walls and windows. When interviewed by a local blogger, she simply said, "They're waking up. The ones inside us." Her DNA was later tested by an independent clinic. The results were never published. The clinic burned down a week later in what was called an electrical fire. But the glyphs she drew, a linguist from Sweden identified them as identical to markings found on metallic fragments recovered in Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. We're not dealing with coincidence anymore. Oh, in June 2024, an anonymous package arrived at the home of Dr. Ruben Cass, a semi-retired evolutionary biologist from Oregon. Inside were 4 glass vials, each labeled with coordinates and dates. Alongside them was a handwritten note. All 4 sites contain the code. 2 ancient, 1 modern, 1 off-planet. Cass, known for his skepticism of fringe theories, decided to analyze the samples using outdated, offline lab equipment to avoid detection. He published his preliminary findings under a pseudonym on a hidden science forum. He confirmed what many feared. Each sample contained the same 13 base pair sequence. The off-planet sample, collected from the exterior of a returned satellite in 2019, had the highest concentration. In Cass's words, this code isn't just embedded in us, it's broadcasting, signaling, reacting to proximity with certain frequencies. We are receivers, and maybe we're transmitters too. That post went viral, on the dark web at least. Within days, Cass vanished. His house was found empty, his lab dismantled. No signs of struggle, no fingerprints. But something was left behind. Etched into the metal surface of his old workstation was a message scratched by hand. They're already here. July 2024, a group of amateur radio astronomers in Finland detected a repeating signal, originating not from space, but from within the Earth's atmosphere. The pattern was subtle, barely distinguishable from background noise. But one of the members, a physics student named Jari Koskinen, recognized it as a variation of the famous "wow" signal from 1977. But this version was different. It contained a modulated frequency, a pulse encoded with numerical patterns. When translated into binary, it revealed a string of DNA base pairs, 13 of them, repeating, the hybrid code again. Jari posted his findings online in a detailed thread that included audio files, spectrograms, and decoding scripts. The post gained traction quickly, attracting attention from both scientific circles and conspiracy theorists. But just as fast as it rose, the thread was wiped. Not deleted, wiped. Archived versions failed to load. Mirrors were corrupted. Even offline saved copies displayed error messages. Jari disappeared 2 days later. His friends say he was last seen boarding a train to Helsinki. He never arrived. At the same time, satellite imagery analysts began noticing something disturbing. Multiple deep-sea anomalies along the mid-Atlantic ridge. Heat signatures. Massive ones. And yet no volcanic activity was recorded. One analyst under the alias Deep Drop X leaked thermal images showing symmetrical structures beneath the ocean floor. Not natural formations, not tectonic events. Shapes, perfect domes, lined with hexagonal ridges, almost architectural. The structures appeared to be aligned with ancient, megalithic sites on land: Stonehenge, Giza, Teotihuacan, each one corresponding to the locations where the hybrid code had been detected in human remains. One structure was estimated to be nearly 7 kilometers wide. And then, the tremors started. Small, rhythmic seismic pulses, always in 13s. Not earthquakes, not explosions, just movement repeating like something stirring. On August 3, 2024, the European Space Agency issued an internal alert. Multiple low-orbit satellites had picked up brief flashes of ultraviolet light in precise intervals over the South Atlantic anomaly. The phenomenon lasted only seconds but was detected by 5 separate sensors. Ultraviolet light is invisible to the human eye, but not to certain insects, and not to the retina of one Peruvian child who had recently been part of a genome study. According to his doctors, his eye structure contained extra reflective tissue, previously undocumented in humans. When shown images from the satellite scans, the child said something chilling. "They're speaking again, but they don't use mouths." The doctors thought he was hallucinating, but he drew a picture of what he heard that night. It was a spiral, surrounded by 13 dots. Inside each dot he had drawn a face not human. By mid-August 2024, something had shifted. The hybrid code was no longer just a fringe curiosity. It was appearing in mainstream genomics labs across the globe, always followed by unexplained shutdowns, silent retractions, or vague statements about incomplete results. But the discoveries kept leaking. A biochemist in Japan revealed that the code wasn't just present, it was active. Under specific electromagnetic frequencies, segments of the DNA began expressing unknown proteins, forming microscopic filaments never before observed in organic matter. She called them synthetic nerves. And under a microscope, these filaments moved, not randomly, but with clear directionality, as if responding to something or someone. 2 days after presenting her early findings in a closed-door seminar, she suffered a cerebral hemorrhage during a routine walk to work. No history of health issues, no warning signs. Her computer was confiscated by national authorities. Her notes gone. At the same time, across the world in Canada, a sleep study involving individuals who had previously reported abduction experiences took a terrifying turn. Participants were hooked up to EEG monitors and placed under controlled sleep conditions in the middle of the 3rd night. All 5 subjects woke up at exactly 13 a.m. simultaneously screaming. They described the same dream: a black hallway, a metal door, a pulse in their heads counting 13 times, and a voice not heard but felt, whispering a single sentence: "You are the message." When researchers reviewed the EEG data, they found that all 5 brains had synchronized activity during the event, perfectly mirrored waveforms. The odds of this happening naturally? Astronomically low. The equipment used that night was damaged by a power surge and replaced. The data erased. But one intern had backed up the logs onto a private drive. He disappeared 3 days later. His apartment was found locked from the inside, no trace. Only a strange pattern scorched into his hardwood floor, 13 overlapping circles, arranged in a spiral. And now something even more disturbing is happening. A growing number of individuals across the globe are beginning to exhibit subtle but undeniable changes. Increased sensitivity to light, enhanced hearing, a perception of vibrations that others can't feel. Some claim they can sense electromagnetic waves. Others say they can hear voices from devices that aren't turned on. One teenager in Argentina collapsed after claiming her television screamed at her in the middle of the night. When her parents turned it on, The screen displayed only a flickering image of a spiral with 13 dots and a single word: soon. What does it mean? Is the code activating something dormant, or has it always been active, and we're just now beginning to notice? By September 2024, it became clear that something global was unfolding, but not in the way disasters usually do. There were no explosions, no mass hysteria. Instead, there was silence, gaps in coverage, vanishing articles, experts who stopped speaking, institutions that quietly shifted their research away from genomics, neurology, and astrophysics, all at once. And yet whispers remained. A leaked internal memo from a major telecom company revealed the existence of new satellite protocols, algorithms designed to filter out non-random high-frequency bursts originating from suborbital zones. In layman's terms, signals from just outside the atmosphere. The document warned that these bursts had started increasing in frequency. Every 13 days, each signal corresponded with spikes in sleep disturbances, migraines, and unexplained behavioral shifts in certain populations. The common denominator? Every affected individual had a unique mutation in their non-coding DNA. The hybrid code again. One section of the memo was blacked out, but a handwritten annotation remained. It's not a code, it's a trigger. Meanwhile, astronomers began noticing strange distortions in long exposure. Space photography. Objects that appeared in one frame but vanished in the next. Not moving, phasing, always the same shape, elongated, with glowing tips and a faint trail of blue light. Attempts to report these sightings to international observatories were met with sudden silence. Forums were shut down, datasets deleted. One astrophysicist from Brazil posted his final message before going offline. They are here. They've always been here. But now, we're finally tuned in. And then came the first mass event. On September 13th, 2024, during a live broadcast of a football match in Italy, millions of viewers reported the screen briefly distorting into static for exactly 13 seconds. During that time, those watching claimed to see something blurry, almost subliminal, a spiral, a set of glowing eyes, a voice that wasn't heard but landed in the back of the mind. Viewers experienced nausea, vertigo, and in rare cases, broadcasting companies denied anything unusual. They blamed regional signal interference, but within days, hospitals across Europe began reporting an uptick in patients experiencing audio hallucinations, vivid dreams of underground tunnels, and an overwhelming fear of looking into mirrors. One patient wrote in her sleep journal, "I saw myself, but not me. She looked like me, but her eyes were deeper. Too deep, there were stars in them." Another wrote, "They're practicing speaking through us." A former intelligence analyst published an anonymous essay titled, "The 13th Frequency." In it, he claimed a global blackout protocol was being prepared, not to protect the population, but to contain a signal, one that was never meant to be intercepted by humans. But somehow we did. And the hybrid code? It was never meant to stay dormant forever. It was a fuse. October 1st, 2024, the day everything changed, but almost no one noticed. There was no invasion, no explosion in the sky, just a silence. For 13 minutes across the globe, all low Earth. Orbit satellites recorded zero. Electromagnetic activity from the planet's surface. No Wi-Fi, no radio, no mobile signals. Planes stayed in the air. Power grids stayed online. But the noise, the constant hum of human technology vanished. And then came the return. But not of what we sent out. Instead, all receivers caught a single message, compressed, embedded across hundreds of frequencies, both natural and artificial. Every copy of the message, when decoded using basic spectral analysis, revealed an identical image, a spiral, 13 points, and one line of text in a language no one recognized, or rather, no one admitted to recognizing. But linguists noticed the characters, matched those found etched into ancient stones in Peru, the Sahara, and beneath the ice in Antarctica. The translation was debated online for days before a consensus emerged. It said, "Synchronization complete. Phase 2 begins." Ooh. Governments responded with eerie calm. No press conferences, no statements, just silence. A few brave scientists stepped forward. Dr. Hassan Mahmoud, released a video explaining what he believed had happened. The hybrid code was never a message. It was a receiver, an embedded interface in our biology. Phase 1 was decoding us. Phase 2 is rewriting us. His video was removed within an hour, but by then it had already spread. Ooh, and then people began to change. Not dramatically, not in ways you'd expect. No superpowers, no glowing eyes, but subtle things. A teacher in Norway suddenly understood languages she'd never studied. A blind man in South Korea began painting vivid images of constellations not visible from Earth. A group of children in Nigeria began humming in perfect harmony, producing frequencies that, when analyzed, revealed embedded numerical patterns consistent with the hybrid sequence. They weren't speaking, they were transmitting, and those who listened too long, those who studied them too closely, began experiencing something else entirely. Dreams of places that don't exist, memories that aren't theirs, a sense of presence when alone, an overwhelming desire to leave without knowing where to go. Ooh, it's no longer a question of if they're here. The question now is, what do they want? And worse, what if they already have it? Because if the hybrid code is in us, if it's always been in us, then maybe they don't need to arrive. Maybe they just need to wake up the parts of themselves they left behind. Inside us. Ooh, end of transmission.